Travis Barker is the sole survivor of a 2008 plane crash that killed 4 people and severely injured 2 others, Travis and his friend DJ AM. Travis Barker was the lead drummer for the massively popular band Blink-182, and DJ AM was a very popular DJ. Together they had a duo called Travis DJ AM, where they released the mixtape Fix Your Face in August of 2008. Before boarding the plane, there were a lot of creepy things that happened. He had initially invited his wife Shanna Moakler to board with him instead of his security guard, but she opted out at the last minute and made the decision to stay at home with their children in case something bad happened. He said she told him, "Just in case something happens, I don't want us both to be going." He decided to bring his security guard Chase Still on the plane. Travis Barker's own daughter, who was only a child, was hysterical that same day. In an interview with Larry King, he would say, "My daughter was hysterically crying that she didn't want me to fly that day. She said, 'The roof is going to come off.' And I was like, 'What happened? Was there an earthquake this morning? What triggered this?' She just kept screaming it and crying it." As a matter of fact, Travis Barker himself had always had a fear of flying. As a teenager, he was sure he would die in a plane crash. When he was 19, he even had a dream that he would die in one, and told his manager. But flying was a part of the job. In 2001, Blink-182 were putting together artwork for their album Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. They created an icon for each member: a jacket, a pair of pants, and an airplane. Travis would say, "Please don't give me the plane. I have a really effed up fear of flying," but would still end up with the plane icon. Before he would board the plane, Travis Barker called his father, telling him he had a horrible feeling. "Everything felt wrong. I called my pops from outside the plane like, 'This plane is really small. I have a horrible feeling. If anything happens, make sure my kids are okay.'" He would board the plane on September 19, 2008. They were performing at an event in Columbia, South Carolina. Just before midnight, the Learjet 60 was set to take off to Van Nuys, California with 6 people aboard. The captain was 31-year-old Sarah Lemon, and first officer co-pilot was 52-year-old James Bland. There was also Travis Barker, his assistant Chris Baker, his security guard Charles Chase Still, and Adam Goldstein, aka DJ AM, 6 people in total. The plane was taking off on the runway when everyone heard a loud banging noise. The landing gear popped. It sounded like gunshots. It sounded like someone was shooting a gun next to my head. Then the plane just spiraled out of control. The plane would basically go up in the air, then crash down and hit the ground, then come up. Every time we hit the ground, the flames and smoke would get bigger, and before the last impact, the plane was completely on fire. What happened was the tire had blown out. Air traffic controllers saw sparks coming from the plane, and the pilots told the control tower that they were going to abort takeoff. The plane would crash through the airport fence, across a highway, and crash into an embankment. "We were a ball of fire in the sky, and I was honestly waiting for lights out," Travis said. Travis Barker tried to go to the front of the plane and help the pilots and others, but catching on fire and couldn't help them. So he grabbed DJ AM, who was asleep. Travis was the only passenger that was awake, albeit on drugs as he recalls, and jumped out of the emergency exit with DJ AM, but in his rush would jump into the jet.
When I jumped through the emergency exit, when I opened the emergency exit before the plane blew up, I was in such a hurry to get out of the plane and exit the plane, I jumped right into the jet, which is full of fuel. So my whole body lit up, you know? So I had jet fuel just in my whole body. Like I burped jet fuel for almost like 3 months.
Oh, God.
DJ AM saw him jump into the jets and he jumped around, following Travis and calling their manager, cursing and yelling that their plane crashed. Travis was on fire and they needed help. Both pilots would die in minutes from burns and smoke inhalation. Travis Barker's assistant and security guard both died on impact. "I didn't care about anything except being with my dad, my sister, Shanna, my 3 kids. I'm completely naked, holding my genitals, everything else is on fire, and I'm running, trying to put myself out." Travis was engulfed in flames and instinctively started tearing off his clothes and was running towards a highway when he heard someone yelling, "Stop, drop, and roll," which he did, leaving the only thing on fire, his feet, due to how soaked his socks and shoes were from the jet fuel. DJ AM was right behind him and came and patted his feet out to kill the fire. DJ AM was able to put out the fires on himself by dropping and rolling and would sustain injuries of third-degree burns on his arms and parts of his head from helping Travis put out the fire on his feet. I was lying next to AM as the plane was exploding, and I was screaming, "Are we alive?" They were immediately transported to the Joseph M. Still Burn Center in Augusta, Georgia, and listed in critical condition. While in the hospital, Travis Barker had no idea that anyone else on the flight had died. He thought everyone was in different parts of the hospital recovering alongside him. Travis Barker had 65% of his body with third-degree burns and needed 27 surgeries. Every couple of days, they would scrub his skin with a metal brush to remove any infection. And the biggest issue was that Travis had built a tolerance because of his heavy drug use prior to the incident, so he would often wake up in the middle of surgery. In about 11 of my 30 surgeries in the burn center, I woke up swinging on doctors. I'd be opened up and just go crazy. I would try and get off the table. I don't think I knew what was going on, but they just couldn't give me enough medication to knock me out because I'd been self-medicating for so long and abusing meds for so long. I just wake up in the middle of anesthesia. At some point, he was transported to the Grossman Burn Center in Los Angeles, and he was unaware of any deaths until 2 weeks before he was set to be released from the hospital, which was 9 weeks that he had been in there since the crash. When I was in the hospital, I was on so many drugs, I didn't even know my 2 friends had passed away. I didn't know the pilots had passed away. I didn't remember anything. I kept thinking everyone was in the hospital, including the 2 pilots and including my best friends. I thought everyone was in different rooms until 2 weeks before I left. Then I went crazy. I wasn't in a good place. I was kind of crazy. I was suicidal. It was so bad that all of these things at once, including the physical pain of recovery, had him considering death and offering friends $1 million to kill him.
And I used to call my buddy Rob, and it would just, my darkest days, I would be like, man, come have any of the homies come over here, I'll deposit money into their bank account, I'm done. You know, like I can't do this. And I wasn't thinking right, you know, I didn't have my kids around me, all I could think is someone made a mistake, and I should have probably been dead as well. And this was all a mistake. I'm in here, like I would have rather died than kind of go through some of the stuff I was going through. But
I would call friends of mine and go, I'll deposit $1 million into whoever's bank account. In the investigation into the plane crash, they found that several tires were very underinflated, which resulted in them being punctured during takeoff. Those pieces would damage the plane hydraulic system, which caused the plane's brakes to be out of operation. The normal operating procedure for the Learjet 60 was to not abort above the speed of 136 knots, or 157 miles per hour. The plane was already at 166 miles per hour when the pilot decided to abort, which was violating operating procedure. The investigators found that the company's tire pressure inspection was subpar. Their estimation was that the tire pressure had last been checked 3 weeks before the crash, but for the Learjet 60, the tires that it had would lose about 2% of their pressure each day and would need to be replaced after 8 days if they weren't maintained. When Travis Barker returned home, he was prescribed a ton of medication that he was taking for about a week, but he overheard one of his friends say something along the lines of, Travis seemed different and a little bit slow. And Travis wasn't feeling like himself, so he decided to flush all the medication he was prescribed down the toilet and go cold turkey on all drugs, excluding weed, which he would later quit for separate reasons in 2012. People are always like, did you go to rehab? And I say, no, I was in a plane crash. That was my rehab. Lose 3 of your friends and almost die? That was my wake-up call. If I wasn't in a crash, I would have probably never quit. He would go through a lot of physical therapy. Learning how to walk again and being able to take a shower by myself again, they were the good points that helped me turn a corner. He was told that he wasn't going to run again because of how many grafts he had on his feet. He had grafts all over the majority of his skin. Grafts are pieces of skin, in Travis Barker's case, taken from a pig, that were transplanted and stapled onto his burnt skin and then allowed to regrow and heal. He would learn to run after learning to walk, and as soon as his hands healed, he was playing the drums again. He's been vegan since 2009 and runs several miles daily alongside regular boxing training and plays the drums every day. He suffered intense post-traumatic stress disorder from the crash. He barely got any sleep for the first couple of weeks home from the hospital and did 3 months of therapy to deal with not only the PTSD, but the survivor's guilt associated with the crash. I was dark. I couldn't walk down the street. If I saw a plane in the sky, I was determined it was going to crash, and I just didn't want to see it. For a long time, and especially on tour bus trips, he felt like he was always bracing for impact, waiting for the next catastrophic thing to happen. Travis Barker would make a full recovery from his injuries, but would not fly again. He would either take tour buses, drive, and even when touring in the UK and Europe, he would take the Queen Mary across the Atlantic Ocean. Things were looking up for Travis until one fateful night on August 28, 2009, when DJ AM would die from an accidental overdose in his New York City apartment. He would find the news while watching TV in the studio. I was in shock. I felt like there was a rock in my throat that I couldn't swallow. I felt like a piece of me had just died. I burst into tears and left the studio. He would leave California and take a bus across the country for 36 plus hours to make it to DJ AM's funeral. When AM was alive, we were each other's therapists, so it was just him and me. When he left, I was like, oh shoot, I'm the only one in my club. It's just me, and I find my ways to deal with it. Travis Barker sued Goodyear and Learjet for damages and would confidentially take a settlement in December of 2009. In early 2021, while being interviewed for Men's Health, 13 years after the incident, Travis Barker had still not boarded a flight. It's gotten better the further I get away from it. The closer I was to it, it felt like I was closer to the bad stuff than I am to the good stuff. I felt closer to the experience of trying to escape, to being in an accident and being burned, trying to grab my friends from a burning plane. That haunted me for a long time, and as long as I was closer to that than this good stuff, I was always thinking about that. Now it's been so many years, it's getting easier for me. There are days where I'll wake up and never think about it. Travis Barker would finally get on a plane in August of 2021, 13 years after the crash, with a photo of him and his girlfriend Kourtney Kardashian saying, "With you, anything is possible." Only a month later, he would tweet, "Flew 5 times in the past month, having visited Mexico, Italy, France, and New York with his now wife." He recalls his first flight since the crash in an interview with Nylon. "I didn't even know I was going. I made a deal with her that she had just said to me, I would love to do so much traveling with you. I want to go to Italy with you. I want to go to Cabo with you. I want to go to Paris with you. I want to go to Bora Bora with you." And I said, "Well, when the day comes you want to fly, I'm telling you I'll do it with you. I would do anything with you. And just give me 24 hours notice." And that's what she did. She's definitely that for me. I'm invincible when I'm with her. It's like I never dreamed. I never even considered flying again. Travis Barker's daughter Alabama would conquer her fear of flying as well and would join him in Mexico to celebrate his 46th birthday in November of 2021. He would share a photo of them together on his Instagram and would comment, "I'm so proud of you for flying." It took Travis Barker over 13 years, but he was able to overcome his fear of flying despite having lost some of those closest to him during that plane crash and after.